Have you ever wondered why the Middle East seems to be in a constant state of unrest? Why borders seem arbitrary and conflicts never really end? To understand the chaos of the present, we must dig into the past. One of the most consequential yet secretive deals ever struck behind closed doors was the Sykes-Picot Agreement of 1916. This wasn't just a treaty. It was a blueprint for manipulation, control, and colonial dominance that continues to reverberate through the modern world. In this documentary, we uncover the hidden story of the Sykes-Picot Agreement and how it silently redrew a map that still bleeds. The Ottoman Empire before the storm. For centuries, the Ottoman Empire ruled much of the Middle East with relative unity and tolerance among its diverse peoples. Arabs, Turks, Kurds, Jews, Christians, and others coexisted under a decentralized imperial system. The empire was not without flaws, but it allowed local governance and religious autonomy in many regions. However, by the late 1800s, internal decline and European encroachment had begun to chip away at the empire's authority. The rise of nationalism, economic stagnation, and internal dissent were weakening this centuries-old superpower. Meanwhile, European powers like Britain, France, and Russia viewed the Ottoman lands as a prize. The Middle East held not just historical and religious significance, but also vast reserves of natural resources, especially oil, which was fast becoming the lifeblood of modern empires. World War I and imperial ambitions. When World War I erupted in 1914, the Ottoman Empire joined the Central Powers, putting it at odds with Britain, France, and Russia. The war became the perfect cover for long-held imperial ambitions. Britain saw the opportunity to secure trade routes to India and access Persian Gulf oil. France eyed Syria and Lebanon, where it had historical and religious interests. The Middle East became a secondary battlefield, but a crucial one. British and French military campaigns in Mesopotamia, the Levant, and the Arabian Peninsula laid the groundwork for future control. But while soldiers fought in the deserts, diplomats plotted behind closed doors, drawing borders in secret. The agreement itself in May 1916, Russia was also informed and agreed, as it had interests in eastern Anatolia and the Black Sea. Under the agreement, France would control modern-day Syria, Lebanon, and parts of southeastern Turkey. Britain would control areas including modern Iraq, Jordan, and the Gulf. Palestine would be placed under international administration. The most shocking aspect, the Arab people who lived in these territories were never consulted. Tribes were split across newly invented borders. Arab betrayal and the broken promise. At the same time as the Sykes-Picot negotiations, the British were in communication with Sharif Hussein of Mecca, promising to support an independent Arab kingdom if the Arabs revolted against the Ottomans. This was known as the McMahon-Hussein Correspondence. Fueled by these promises, Hussein's sons, notably Prince Faisal, led the Arab revolt. Together, they fought the Ottomans, expecting independence in return. But the revelation of the Sykes-Picot Agreement in 1917, after the Russian Bolsheviks leaked it, caused widespread Arab outrage. The promise of freedom had been nothing but a strategic lie. This betrayal would deeply influence Arab nationalism for generations to come. It marked the beginning of deep mistrust between Arabs and Western powers. The Balfour Declaration and the seeds of modern conflict. Adding to the confusion, Britain issued the Balfour Declaration in November 1917, expressing support for a national home for the Jewish people. In Palestine, yet Palestine had already been promised to Arabs and designated as international under Sykes-Picot. This overlapping of promises further complicated the region's fate. Zionist immigration increased, leading to tension with local Palestinian Arabs as British control expanded. They were caught between conflicting promises made to Arabs and Jews. This tension would eventually explode into violence and decades of unresolved conflict. Colonial mandates rebranded occupation. After World War I, the League of Nations granted mandates to Britain and France to prepare these lands for independence. In reality, these mandates were thinly veiled colonial occupations. France established authoritarian rule in Syria and Lebanon, violently suppressing revolts, such as the Great Syrian Revolt of 1925. Britain faced uprisings in Iraq and Palestine as resentment over occupation grew. The so-called Mandate period institutionalized foreign rule and deepened divisions. especially as Britain and France favored certain ethnic or religious groups over others to maintain control. Long-term effects on the region, the arbitrary nature of Sykes-Picot had far-reaching consequences. Sectarian conflicts. Iraq was created by merging three distinct Ottoman provinces, Sunni, Shia, and Kurdish, setting the stage for ethnic and sectarian tensions. Kurdish statelessness. The Kurds were promised autonomy in the Treaty of But those promises were scrapped. Today, over 30 million Kurds remain stateless. Palestinian displacement. Britain's role in Palestine led to the creation of Israel in 1948, sparking mass Palestinian displacement and decades of conflict. Endless civil wars. Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Yemen have all faced brutal internal conflicts rooted in colonial-era boundaries. Proxy warfare. The region became a playground for Cold War rivalries and now 21st-century global power games. How the West still benefits, even after official decolonization. Western powers maintained their influence. Oil deals. British and American companies secured control over vast oil reserves in Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and Iran. Military bases. The US and UK built a network of bases to protect their interests, especially in the Persian Gulf. Weapon sales. Billions in arms sales flow to regional powers, keeping the region armed and unstable. Regime support. Authoritarian regimes were propped up if they aligned with Western geopolitical interests. Sykes-Picot may have ended on paper, but its spirit endures through economic and military dominance. Demolishing checkpoints between Iraq and Syria. For them, these borders symbolized illegitimate Western control. This narrative, though violent and extremist, resonated with many who felt betrayed by history. New calls for self-determination have also emerged. Kurds in Iraq and Syria seek autonomy or independence. Palestinian advocacy continues globally for a homeland. Lebanese and Syrian youth protest corrupt post-colonial systems. Lessons for the future. Sykes-Picot is a warning from history. Secret deals, made without the consent of people, carry generational consequences. The Middle East continues to suffer not merely from modern geopolitics, but from historical wounds that were never allowed to heal. Many of today's youth in the region grow up in fragmented nations, defined more by foreign interests than national unity. Understanding Sykes-Picot helps explain why democracy struggles to take root. True peace in the Middle East requires recognizing historical injustices and acknowledging them in educational and political discourse. Supporting local self-governance rather than top-down models imposed by foreign powers. Rejecting foreign-imposed solutions, especially those prioritizing resource extraction over human rights. Encouraging inclusive national identities, where all ethnic and religious communities feel represented. Investing in regional cooperation, trade, and shared cultural heritage rather than in arms races. Nations must reclaim their narratives and shape borders through consensus, not conquest. It will require courage, compromise, and cultural healing, but a future free of the shadows of Sykes-Picot is still possible. A map that still bleeds. The Sykes-Picot Agreement was not merely a relic of colonial ambition, it was the match that lit a century of unrest. Though 100 years have passed, the lines drawn in secrecy continue to shape headlines, refugee flows, and global diplomacy. As citizens of a connected world, we must understand the foundations of modern conflict. We must challenge the legacies of division and champion a vision built not on imperial convenience, but on shared humanity and historical truth. The future of the Middle East and, indeed, global peace depends on remembering the past not as a burden, but as a guide. It's time to redraw the map not with borders, but with understanding. If you found this exploration eye-opening, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Decoding History and Science. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe the Middle East can ever escape the legacy of colonial borders? Your voice matters.